Many children and teenagers who have GI conditions need to be on a restricted diet. Conditions that might require a restricted diet include celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and eosinophilic esophagitis. A restricted diet for these conditions can be very important to improve health. However, it can be hard for anyone to live on a restricted diet. The purpose of this video is to give some tips to help.
It's very important when you're on a restricted diet to consider what nutrients you're losing when you're eliminating foods. And that can affect a large number of nutrients. It depends what you're eliminating. For example, in the case of a child who we put on a dairy-free diet, then they would lose all the nutrients of dairy, which is calcium. And a lot of people might just think, oh, my child needs some more calcium, I'm going to give them a calcium supplement. But for a child's diet, dairy provides more than just calcium. It's a really important food for growth. It provides protein, it provides fat. Fat's important for brain development, for nerve development. Milk and dairy products have riboflavin. They have other nutrients in them that are very important for children when they're growing. And children are not just little adults. So I usually recommend whenever I put a child on a restricted diet that they come in and follow up with me in a couple months. And that way we can measure their growth, look at their height, look at their weight, make sure everything's staying on track. I will often have them keep a food record, 3 to 4 days worth of food records, and we can look at that for calories, protein, some of the major nutrients that we know are important for growth, like calcium and zinc and iron. And if we have any questions, it looks like we're not sure from just eyeballing that food record, we can run a nutrition analysis by computer and make sure that there's nothing that we're missing there. Sometimes we'll start some vitamins, sometimes we might need to recommend extra fat or extra protein or things to fill some of the gaps.
I think some of the biggest challenges I see with children who are on a restricted diet is really the social stigma that's attached to living with a restricted diet. So not being able to eat what their friends eat, feeling really different from their peers in school or even in their own family. So to help a child to feel like they're not missing out, and again, you know, it varies depending on the age, but just generally speaking, it's focusing on the aspects of the restricted diet that are not negative, focusing on the positive, what are the good things about it, and also, you know, practicing with them at home different situations they may encounter in school or with peers or with siblings. So practice different scenarios, like how to tell your friends that you have a restricted diet or that you're not eating the same thing they are. I think just practicing those so then when they do encounter them at school, they already feel more confident in how to move forward with those conversations. In school, also at the beginning of the year, talking to the teacher, talking to the principal, letting them know ahead of time what this diet is. So if there's, you know, parties in school or different lunch activities, that they know that this is in place, this restricted diet. So it's really important to get the school on board with that as well. And you know, also, you know, if at a friend's house or going to a birthday party, just making sure you find out ahead of time what's going to be there, so the different kinds of food, so you can make sure that your child has something similar. Another thing I'd recommend is having them really participative when you're cooking or when you're going to the grocery store to pick out different food, so they feel really a part of the process and like that they have some control over their diets.
I think there are a lot of cookbooks available. It certainly depends on what is being removed from the diet, but there's multiple cookbooks available for gluten-free, for dairy-free. I think it's a really good learning experience for kids and parents to get into the kitchen and do some experimenting with foods together. I think there's a lot of websites available. There are support groups for different diagnoses. There's gluten-free celiac support groups, which is really helpful for kids to meet other kids like them. And so I think that there's a lot of face-to-face support available in support groups. I think there's a lot of support available online.
If you'd like to talk further about living on a restricted diet, feel free to call our office and make an appointment. We have myself, who's a pediatric gastroenterologist, along with a nutritionist, a child psychologist, and a feeding therapist. And we're all under one roof and we can all work together to help your child.